Good morning. My name is Darren Chance, and this is going to be my submission for my final project. Um, my goal is to demonstrate what I've learned this semester. In terms of software integration, development, testing, etc. All right. So we're gonna start off with the code development, and I also put together this document to kind of help guide me through this discussion. So we're gonna start off with code development. Okay. Why did I choose IntelliJ as the IDE that I'm using is due to has several built-in functions necessary for the software development workflow. Some of the things that I like, for example, are Maven integration, GitHub. It has database tools, JUnit, and the list honestly goes on. So I'm just gonna give you kind of like a snapshot of like my code base here. Um, Zoom in a little bit here. So, this is a Maven based project. You'll see that I have some familiar items like a POM file, pom.xml with all my resources. This is also a web application though, so you'll see I have a couple JSP um files. This is a Java web application. Okay. Just to give you a little bit of information about my application, it's simply a family chore manager. Um, and it is the goal of this application is to build a somewhat of an interface, a web app that families can use to, in a sense, gamify or reward family members for doing chores. Okay, this is in the very early stages, just a heads up on that. um I have a main method here. This is primarily used for testing, like or working on the code offline, like backend stuff. I have a few web pages set up. This is like the main. Excuse me. Oh well, one of the pages actually, not the main page. This is gonna be the starting page right here, which is gonna be the login method. I'll kind of show you an example of that later on in the video. And just a couple of other classes, and I got like one or two servlets here. This is still in the prototyping phase, honestly. But I think it'll do for the purpose of this assignment. All right, so talked a little bit about that. Next thing is distributed version control. GitHub. Why GitHub? Basically, it helps me manage the source code of my project and all of its modifications. I like to use GitHub because it has integration with IntelliJ. It just makes it very easy. I'll show you a quick example of that. Let's say I wanted to commit some code. All I have to do is go here. I noticed that this class changed, for example. I can just go here. Well, actually, it's a new class, so I can just put a quick note in here and actually give you an example of a commit. I'll just say created list chores servlet.java, and I'll just give some information. This class is created to serve a list of all chores to web page. And I'll just put like using this post method or something like that. All right. I'll hit the commit button. All right. So that's been committed. So now the next step, let's say I'm like, all right, it's the end of the day. I'm ready to push my code up. All I have to do is hit the push button here. Hold on. It says there's a couple warnings. Let me see what type of warnings. All right, these are literally just warnings, so I'm going to ignore them. We're going to try to push again here. So I'm gonna hit push. I'm gonna push, and you see the change that I just made is right here. It says create a list for a servlet. Hit push. I like this because I don't have to mess around with the command line too much. that's just me. I'm sure like the terminal and it has its place, you know, and I definitely know how to use it, but um I feel like this approach gives me more time to actually focus on coding versus anything else. And just to show you the let me see, chore manager, just to show you the commit that actually I just made, just proof of concept. You see right here, created list chores servlet.java. You can click on it and it'll show you that I just created that, or I just pushed that to the server. Okay, cool. All right, let's go back. Another thing I like to do is project management with GitHub. So for example, I like to create little tasks here and there. So this is one example: integrate Mockito with JUnit. And then it gives kind of like an overview. Mockito basically is a way to like mock the database. So anytime I'm testing it, I don't have to constantly like edit the database. So I just created a task here because eventually I want to try to integrate that so I can create some better tests. Um, tasks, if there's anything that comes up and I want to work on, or if I'm working with a team, we'll put that in there. All right, so build automation. So I use Maven. The Tour Manager is a web application being developed, uses primarily Java as the programming language. All right, so let me just give you an example of that. And just let me scroll back to this song to make sure I'm on pace here. All right, so I'm definitely trying to demonstrate this here. All right, so if I'm going back to the application here, we actually have a plugin right here, which is Maven, which basically does everything that you could do in the command line. But what I like is that you can take the different build goals and you can make your own basically. So that's pretty much what I did. I went in here and I have my own configuration called full cycle. I edited it to basically run these following commands. So just to kind of explain, the package part is pretty much like the building of it, and I'll demonstrate that here. In just a second, and then this part right here is basically gonna automatically deploy it to the server that I have, which is a Tomcat server. Okay, so pretty much does everything in like one swoop. It actually even tests the code. I don't have to actually explicitly put that in there because it's actually gonna test the code as a part of like what I have in there, and you'll see in just a second as I give you an example. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna go ahead and run so you can see it build. All right, so you see build success. Just taking you through the whole process is cleaning it, resources, compiling, and then it's compiling the test. And then we'll scroll down here. You see it's starting test right here. And then you're gonna keep scrolling down here, and it gives me the results here. I'll go over more about tests in a moment. Try not to get too ahead. Actually, testing was the next thing, so I'll go over it now. All right, so testing. I have one test set up so far. Okay. Let me try to find that real quick. Let me close out some of these tabs. All right, so I do have one test set up here, and it's using the JUnit framework. So this is just called the database test. So the purpose of this test right here is to basically, I was noticing an issue when using like Hibernate, that like if I pass in an object, it would basically just return everything somehow in the database. So I want to make sure that it doesn't do that. For example, so how I test for that is here I just pass in, and I also want to make sure when you're passing a non-entity class, like for example a chore or a reward, it will return null. Okay, so that's why I have a list right here of different classes, for example, that are not entities. Um, And then right here, I'm expecting a null on when I run this command, which basically supposed to return the list of items, or you could say table, for like the specific entity. So this test, I'll just run the test just so you can see by itself. You see right here the test passes, but let's say I change this test to something like let me see. I'll just put like true or something like that. Just some random variable, so you can see that it does fail and it does work successfully. You see how it fails? The neat thing about this is when I run the full cycle, if it fails, it will not continue and deploy the application, which is really important for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and fix that back just so we can kind of you know, make sure I'm not messing anything up. Running it, it's deploying it. Okay, perfect. All right, so that's testing right there. Um, Again, JUnit's easy to use. There's plenty of resources available for writing tests for your code online. That's why I chose to go with it. Our release automation. This one is I don't have it all figured out yet. I'll be honest, but I'm doing my best. I just want to at least talk about it. Um, the goal is to create a release in GitHub, give it a number, and clone the code base and build an official release. With Maven, like offline. So somebody's gonna be in charge of doing this. So I'm gonna right now it's easy because I'm just working by myself. But so what that would be is something like this. For example, I will go here to code, create a new release. I can just say, hey, version, 1.0 or something like that. You know, describe the release, etc. And what it'll do, it's gonna pull everything together, take a snapshot of the database. From there, my goal is to like basically at that point in time, like that package or whatever, like create like an automated process to like package it up basically and post it somewhere. Like whether that be on like an official like a hosting site or something like that. So if anybody wants to use it, they can download it, for example. Something along those lines. Um all right, application deployment. This is done with the Tomcat 7 Maven plugin. I'm gonna show that to you right now. The plugin allows for deployment of WAR projects, which is the format for a Java web application. It allows the goal to be set at the end of the Maven build, which automatically deploys to the Tomcat server. So, for example, you'll see this note right here. It says deployed application at context path, and then it even says deploying WAR, and then it even gives you the link to like where it's deploying it to. So this is automated in a sense because I went ahead and just added that tag in here right here, just Tomcat deploy, like at the end of it, so that way it can automatically do it. So this is really helpful for me because you can just do everything in like one click. Okay, now you can change the server too. So let's say I have different servers, different hosts. I may have a production server, a test environment server. you know it could work both ways. You just need to make sure that you're adjusting that. So maybe I could create like another one that could another run configuration that could like possibly differentiate that. All right, I did. So now let me just give you an example of that really quick. So I'm just gonna hit the run button, make sure it's deploying. All right, so boom, right here, deploying WAR. It gives me a link, so I'm just gonna click on it. Okay, so you see here, I'm gonna just write something random, login failed. But I actually have a username that won't fail, so click on this. Just a real simple application that I'm just getting started. Hitting list chores. Excuse me. It'll basically query the database and return like basically like a template. This is something I just created really quick to like I'm prototyping, which will kind of show you like what type of chores, or I mean this is rewards actually, what type of rewards you could get for like doing chores. For example, no chores for a day, redeem $20. The description here will be like receive $20 from mom or dad, for example. Just some information. Another reward could be like date with mom and dad, for example, personal date with mom and dad, etc. All right. So now, just to prove that it kind of works, like you see how this title says reward list. I'll go in and I'll actually change that file just to kind of like show something that has changed. Um, and to simulate like actually changing the code base, and then deploying it again. So if I go here to view chores, instead of me naming this reward list, I'll just name it like chore list or something like that. And then I'll put like 1, 2, 3, 4, just something random, just so you can see the difference. I'll hit it, run, it'll go through all the process, run the tests, all tests passed. It's deploying it again. I'm gonna click it, and then log in again. All right. And then I'm gonna hit list chores, and you see now it says chore list 1, 2, 3, 4. So the information changed. And even if I go back to this other one here and I refresh it, it's gonna update too. So it's not like a different instance. It's actually this. It's just redeploying it basically. All right. So gave you an example about that. And again, this is a plugin. You see it right here, Tomcat 7. These are some couple different options for Maven. So that's what I use. Okay. Kubernetes. I'll be honest, I can't get a grasp of this. So I kind of like, I don't really have anything to show for that. Still a work in progress. And last but not least, this is one that took me quite a bit of time to like set up. Datadog. I have set up Datadog, to monitor traffic to and from the application and Tomcat server, and I'll give you some examples of that, okay? I'll actually even show you an example of a possible error that could come up, okay? So, all right, so as you can see here, it's like, this is kind of like a dashboard. It's like monitoring like a bunch of different services. So you see here is my chore manager app. If you click on it, you can actually see lots of different information. I'll be honest, I don't know all of the information. However, I do know that it's working correctly. And it has a lot of different use cases. But something that I like the most, to be honest, here is the traces. The traces, you can see like the status codes, like as they're happening, for example. So you see how I'm getting a bunch of 200s, but I'm like, hey, I got this 302. What is the issue here? What happened? So I can see that this that something went wrong here, basically. So I may want to investigate this a little bit more. I'll give you an example of, let me see, something that may produce an error. So let me go ahead, and what I'll do, this is my server running in a Docker image. I'm gonna actually stop it here, okay? And I went ahead and stopped it. Now, in theory, if I actually go back and run my Tomcat application, let me see, localhost / chore app, it should actually give me an error. Okay, we're gonna try. Hopefully, it gives us an error. Okay, you see how it's hanging because the server's down. So, can imagine if I have like hundreds of like requests, for example, for this page, like it's gonna be like probably hundreds of like if this app was actually live and I was working for a company or something like that, you would see a bunch of like these errors, and you can analyze it that way. So ideally you want to set up like a dashboard so you can get some type of alerts and stuff like that when certain things happen. So you see I just got some status 500. You see it's giving me some Hibernate stuff. I'll show you that in a second here. So let me try to like refresh it and see if it'll oh, boom, perfect. So you see it says unable to create request, issue details. So it's like literally just giving you the issue right then and there. You can click on it and it gives you some more information. I like looking at the raw view of it, so I can kind of read everything. For example, and Java, so you can kind of read this and figure out like, hey, all right, like what's going on here. Um, so for example, let me see. Da, 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 da. Caused by David error calling driver. Caused by Microsoft. Da da da. TP connection to host port. All right. See the connection to the port failed. So this could be very useful. Like I'm not an expert at debugging or anything like that, but this is like how you would set it up, and you would kind of fine tune it a little bit more. All right. So, let's see here. And that is pretty much it. Um I hope you enjoyed the presentation and got some type of insight on my process. I know it's not perfect. I'm not an expert at this, but definitely I did try to put a lot of effort into this, and that's the setup. If in the future, I definitely would like to probably manage, like, shift this process away from the IDE and maybe put it in something like Jenkins, if I can get that, or some type of other system, to kind of just have that view of everything that's happening. However, this does work, as long as you follow the rules set forth in this document. All right. Thank you so much for your time, Professor, and again, hope you enjoyed the presentation.